So here we are. You've watched the video. It's kind of fascinating, isn't it? It's entertaining, it's fun, it's laughter. She's a wonderful presenter and communicator. Power to her. Now, can I just say that her playful advice to you, why can't we just say Daemon? Why can't we just say Daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, instead of all this humanism that we've taught ourselves to do for the last 500 years, is a very good question that she has posed. The humanism she talks about, which has taken 500 years to take root, is good and bad. It's got some blinding attributes to it too. And I'll give you an example of how you might personally practice it, but you'll probably first notice it in other people. And you listen to TV commentators, and when they say the phrase human being, you'll notice their tone changes to one of reverence. This is a thing you'll notice in movies, television, conversation, that people always put a bit of a pause in front of the phrase and change the tone to one reverential. Now, this is our rejection, it would seem. This is our rejection of the scientific idea that we are simply modified apes, or at best we're just ascended apes. So we really don't believe all this scientific stuff that we learned in school. We take it on board, but we don't believe it all 100%. And we speak about each other with some reverence, okay? Now, that's humanism, and it's A-OK. It's absolutely wonderful that we do that we value ourselves so highly. But Elisabeth Gilbert points out that by doing these things, that we're losing something, we're throwing something away. We're possibly throwing away the value of humility and questioning things. We no longer question some things as soon as we do this, if I can call it, and I don't wish to be impertinent, if we can call it a little bit of self-worship. Okay, that's humanism, and by so doing, we focus on something the wrong way, and we miss something in the side field, which is what Elisabeth Gilbert talks about, the Daemon. D-A-E-M-O-N. Elisabeth Gilbert does talk about the Greeks and the Romans having a different usage. They have the word genius and the word daemon to mean the same thing, some kind of creativity booster that makes an occasional appearance in your hour of need. But it gradually fell into disuse, and humanism was promulgated around the Renaissance, you see. So nothing wrong with that. And in case you don't know, Socrates was about 495 BC, and he openly advocated and openly said, quite honestly, that he had this mentoring intelligence which somehow communicated things to him and steered him, for one thing, away from politics. Not to enter politics was one of the Daemon's constant advice to him. And it used to help him sort through mis and disinformation. He wrote about this, and it happened in his childhood. That's where it began, and Socrates talks about this. And I've put a web page together which will be linked below this video to this effect. Now, the Romans were aware of this Daemon too. They called it a genius, which is something inside you, something like a magician which can make an appearance occasionally, right? So, now I'm going to tell you something about Socrates' daemon. It turns out everyone has a daemon. Most times it lives as a silent partner in a kind of sealed capsule within yourself, and it sits there waiting for you to wake up to its presence. And because we've all become terribly humanist, self-involved, self-worshipping, we never think to look within ourselves. And that's the failure that she's actually talking about, Elisabeth Gilbert, the award-winning best-selling author. That our focus in the wrong place, external to ourselves, and taking all the glory for everything we do, is drawing our attention away from something very beautiful that we can all experience. Now, I want to repeat this to you. You all have a daemon. You all have one, and it sits there as a silent partner until you learn to acknowledge its presence. Now, Socrates did it in his childhood, but thanks to a change in natural law, today, 2,500 years later, it's now possible for anyone's daemon to be activated, and it will literally start talking to you. It begins with vivid messaging dreams. The good news about this daemon is that today, centuries later than Socrates, the daemon will provide physical evidence of itself to you. Yes, dear viewer, to you. The daemon will provide evidence of its physical evidence of its actual presence. This has already been proven in 10 countries. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it now. I'd just like to emphasize that this daemon thing is totally natural. That's why everybody has one. And it can be activated in just 20 minutes. You'll immediately get some physical evidence at a website, truebluehealer.com. There is a beginner's tour that you can do there, and you'll be given some physical evidence immediately. Then within about 7 days, you'll get some vivid messaging dreams of a most compelling nature. And the second week, you're likely to get some physical signals which will surprise and amuse you, because you'll find the daemon has a wonderful sense of humour. It can be very playful. Now, who's the boss? What's going on here? How can you have this thing that seems to be like a spirit guide talking to you or whatever? It begins by talking in dreams, appearing in dreams as a favourite entity, and you get physical signals to back it up, that you're not just imagining all this stuff. It's not self-hypnosis or anything like that. And later on you get this internal mentoring voice that it takes about 4 months. That's what Socrates talked about, an internal mentoring voice that enables me to steer my way round and through mis and disinformation. Socrates said this, and it always advised him to stay out of politics, which ultimately killed him anyway, but he held it off as long as possible. That's a wonderful story, Socrates. Now, what's going to happen to you if you get this same daemon talking to you? And it is the same daemon, I'll tell you that. It's a totally natural experience. Well, you're going to have a much better life. You're going to have experiences of biochemical bliss upwelling into your physiology. This is a real thing. It's totally natural. Works on everybody. So why shouldn't it be this way? And it will greatly enhance your life, and suddenly you'll start to realize that you've been asleep all this time because you didn't know about the daemon. The daemon is structured something like an internal shadow within you. It's a shadow intelligence that remains aloof and behind you, so you never see it because you don't look inward like most people today. And once triggered in this 20-minute beginner's tour at truebluehealer.com, the daemon will start talking to you, okay? Beginning with dreams, some physical signals also, and there's also some wonderful musical signalling which you'll be shown how to apprehend, and in the 20-minute beginner's tour, how to apprehend it and comprehend it, okay? All for free in the 20-minute beginner's tour at truebluehealer.com. Everyone going through this process finds it wonderfully easy and a delight. And it enhances everyone's life, as it certainly did for Socrates. This is the way that Elisabeth Gilbert talks about it. And she said, so many authors and creators make use of this daemon, but they don't know what to call it. She's finally put a name on it and found a historical thread tracing it right through human history. So you can meet this Daemon thing, and by the way, it's not a sudden inrush of anything. You don't get bowled over. It's a daily drip feed of a dream here and a dream there, a night dream and then a day dream, and you'll start linking them together, and you get an occasional physical signal, and it's kind of fascinating how it all works, but it will greatly enhance your life, and you'll realise that you've literally been asleep. So can I see you there at truebluehealer.com? 20-minute beginner's tour, and all questions are answered. There's an email link on the website. Steve here in Sydney. Over and out.